Hey guys, what is up? I'm just getting the stream set up right now, but we should be back shortly, and we should start shortly. I think it's only about, oh, it's not even 7:30 yet, so there's a little bit of time. But if you guys want, I have a link for y'all. So I took some screen grabs today of the movie Klaus. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely suggest checking it out. It's on Netflix. And I took some screenshots of it because I thought it would be good to talk about because I really love the movie. So, just post up in the chat. No, I'm not going to, the stream won't have any spoilers. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the story. I'm not going to talk about any of the character development or anything like that. We're just purely going to talk about the technical aspect of it and the art. The story is really good, but I will not spoil it because I know it didn't come out. It only came out recently, so not everyone has seen it. Okay, in the meantime, I'm gonna make some dumplings. I wonder if I can do that. And text source. Yeah, let's add that. Oh shit. Where's my mouse? Where's my mouse? Look at this. I don't have to type it up every time. It'll just pop up on its own. Oh yeah, look at that. Haha. Perfect. Oh man, this is genius. 2-minute tip stream. So 31. Composition and Klaus. Das Franz Klaus. Yeah, that sounds good. Why don't we all get some food and call it a day? Alright, alright. Alright, I'll be back in a hot second. Oh. Oh my goodness. Why is it snowing in our freezer? Hey guys, post up in the chat. I'll just ask you guys later when you come back on. Whoa, look at that. Right in the face. What is up, guys? Close that door. So, the year is ending quite quickly. I think there's like, what, 6 more weeks? Next week is already Thanksgiving, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. It's just, oh my goodness, where'd the time go, right? Like, it just came and went and came. Oh, I didn't plug in my pineapple. This needs to go off. Whoop. Hey, Ethan Walker. I have not watched the latest TMNT. There's a lot of good animation coming out of it. I know people that worked on it, and I think it's amazing. I just haven't been keeping up with it. I don't have cable, so it makes it a little bit hard, but definitely watch that. Why do you ask? Have you been watching it? Oh, it's hot. Oh, not only is that hot, it's spicy. Oh my god. Man, these dumplings are a little bit spicier than I always expect. I think the season's wrapping up, right? Like the last couple episodes are gonna be up soon. Woo! Yeah, Kevin's really good. He came from LMU. There are a lot of great people that are on it. Even from the start, there were a ton of really good people like Brendan, Jamie, JJ, Sebastian, Sam, Alan, supervising directing. Like there are some crazy powerhouses on that team, on that whole team. Now they have Jake, I think, and a bunch of other people. I can't keep up with it because it's been going on for so long, but there are a ton of really good board artists on that show. Not to mention that the studio they got, Flying Bark Studio, out in Australia, is really good too. They have GIF-Fly, and a bunch of really talented animators. It's pretty amazing. It reminds me a lot of like a lot of Motor City when it was happening because the animators were really young, really like hungry, and really put their heart into it. So it makes me happy. Cool. Sorry, I'm eating on stream. I'll ask this to you guys now because you're here, but since the year is wrapping up and this is the first year I've only started streaming, to be honest. Like, I didn't do this before. I started in what, March, April. Anyways, I was wondering what you guys want to see out of the stream. I feel like you guys come back every week and you guys want to learn something, and what can I do better to help you? What can I do better on Tuesdays with like the educational stuff, and then what can I do better on Fridays in terms of entertainment and talking to other people? What do you guys want to see from this? What do you guys think is working? What do you guys think is not working? I'm very curious because for me, this is kind of just like an experiment. I read a really good book about kind of like giving back, and so I wanted to do that as this, and I've actually kind of like enjoyed a lot now. Like, I do enjoy streaming a lot. I'm talking to you guys, and this has helped me out a ton. Also, like refreshing my skills and learning how to explain concepts that are sometimes a little bit harder to put into words. So it's been really beneficial to me too. And at the end of the day, I get to meet a bunch of new people, and that has been really great too. So if you guys have any criticisms or any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Because going into 2020, I want to do more. I want to have it be better organized. I want it to be better like presented. If I could, I wish I could have each of the episodes like cut up into 10-minute bits so that people could watch it very easily. I want to bring on more friends that I know and people in the industry to talk about the industry. I want to explore different aspects of animation, like the character design side or background side, and like things like that. That would be great to have. And then on Fridays, like I would also love to do board games. So things like that going forward. If you guys have any suggestions or criticisms, that would make it a lot easier because then I can kind of know what's working and what's not working. Ethan says, I just worry for Kevin pulling all-nighters though. Yeah, that's kind of rough. I would not suggest that. Oh, let me post that the stream is up and going. Alright, what should the screenshot be of? Mafia werewolf would be fun. So Kevin says, or Ethan says, Friday recommendation, I don't know, maybe Mafia werewolf would be fun. I think Mafia, I think going into 2020, I want to do more board games and other, I guess, like Mafia and Werewolf, those type of games. What I'll end up doing is I'll probably have to get a second camera and a second mic system, and then put those into the streaming. But that is something I want to do. I'll play Settlers on stream. Like, oh man, Settlers is so good. I love that. I'll probably do the Jenga thing we're talking about. I really want to do that as well. Kenny says you should make survey questions on Survey Monkey. It might be easier. Okay, yeah, I might do that too. I just figured I'd ask you guys since we have a little bit of time right now. Yeah, so maybe that will be happening. Are there any games you guys want to see us play or anything you guys want to learn more of? I need a photo for the thumbnail to upload. Are you guys interested in any other parts of animation besides storyboarding? Ethan says, I think having guest interviews with other professionals in animation would make it a lot easier to keep up content and not run out of things to talk about. Plus, bring in maybe some viewers. Oh, that'd be interesting. That was something I had considered about people in LA, maybe having them, maybe bringing someone on to show their work and then critique it in person. Just that way we could have like that back and forth dialogue. The only problem with that is that I feel like, yeah, maybe I might do that. That might be something to consider. How are you guys doing though? How's things going on in your life? Your lives. Kang says, I think the videos can be organized better. Oh, what do you mean? Like I know that on YouTube it's really bad because it's just streaming. And that it would be so much easier if they're like broken up into 10-minute bits. Like I think that is probably the easiest way to convey information, especially with YouTube videos. Kay says playlist would help a ton. I actually do have a playlist, just not for the streams themselves. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/dwooman_art, there should be a playlist for dwooman. Otherwise, if you go to just youtube.com, here, let me go switch over. Let's say you go youtube.com and then just type dwooman in the search. There should be a playlist actually. dwooman, let me type in storyboard. There you go. There's a storyboard tutorials playlist, and there's like, this is pretty much everything I've ever talked about in terms of lessons. This is when I was still kind of like doing lessons where I talk about things at the start. The streams and stuff where I just talk to you guys and do 2 hours of like storyboard review, I need someone to help cut those up for me because I don't have time to go back and cut it and edit it. So right now I've just been doing the time codes because that's the fastest. But I do agree. I think a playlist would be better. I think putting them into videos would be better. If any of you guys are like YouTube editors or something, that would be, reach out to me. Maybe we can work something out. Kevin says, finally getting back into new sequence now that work is coming down. Hey, that's good. Keep storyboarding. Same stream. It's doing the film study. That's good. Playlist would help a ton. Kevin says, yeah, the guests are always interesting. Would love for Hyunju to come on with you on the Tuesday stream. Yeah, that is something I'll probably have her come by for. I think she has a lot of good information as well. Towards the end, because my November and December are so busy, I probably won't have too many guests on the Tuesday stream, just because it's a little bit harder for me to manage. And really, there's only like 7 weeks left, but really like 4 weeks, just because there's Christmas and New Year's and they take up time. But so 2020 is when it's happening. Ethan says, I agree. What brought me in was some of the Twitter videos popping in my feed. Just the small bits makes it easy to digest. Yeah. If you guys, like I said, I just need cutting up the episode. When I was cutting up the episodes before, the I wasn't working, so I had time throughout the day to do it. But for 10 minutes of content, it would take me about 2 hours to edit. So for like, if I had to take a full 2 hours, and I'd say about a good hour of it is content worthy, it'd probably take me like a whole day to edit and get to a point where I can post it on YouTube. Because then you also have to like make thumbnails. It's also audio, all this other stuff to it. So the amount of time I have to edit videos is very limited. And so I don't usually do that. If I had the time, I would definitely edit it and put it up as clips rather than as just like one giant chunk. Like I said, if you guys know any YouTube editors, or if you guys are getting into editing, let me know. Reach out to me on my Twitter, or reach out to me through my email, dwooman.art@gmail.com, and maybe we can work something out. Again, I'm just doing this on my own, so there's not a whole lot of time for me to edit things, but I do love editing. Like I love editing. I love the whole process. It's just there's not enough time. Jordan says, for editing, you mean just cutting the videos? It's cutting it. It's also like taking out the pauses. It's adding in like the title sequence. It's putting on a thumbnail for YouTube. It's tagging the video, writing descriptions for it. So when you like upload a video, when you do all that stuff, there's like, let me go back and pull up an example again. So with my older videos, what I would do is, let me see if I can find a normal one. Okay, here, figure invention part 1, right? So there would always be like a opening little bit, then I'd have a title card type thing explaining what's going on, and then I'd go into the video and actually cut out a lot of pauses, because when I'm talking, I have all these pauses in there that aren't interesting, and sometimes I repeat myself too much. So I need to go back in and cut all that out. And then part of this, oh my God, that's hot. Part of this process is also putting up a description. It's making sure it goes up at the same time. There's like a lot of smaller things that take time, creating thumbnails for it. So it is just editing, but it's also like, it's like a whole suite of things that needs to get taken care of. Yeah, Ethan said it's also making it really fluid. Yeah, it's definitely finding the way to present it most effectively, right? Like it's not just cutting what is already there. It's kind of like, sometimes I'll move dialogue around, sometimes I'll move parts of it around just because it plays better that way, or it's more digestible. It just takes time. It takes time, and also takes like kind of like attention, because when you're editing, you can't do other things, so you always have to be editing. So again, I'm not complaining about it, I just don't have the time for it. Like I really wish I could do that, I just don't have the time for it right now. But yeah, like I said, if you do editing, reach out to me. What do you guys think is working for both the Tuesday and the Friday streams? Like, what do you think is actually helping you, or is actually fun? Jordan says, board studies on topics such as perspective and figure invention. Okay. What about the... Oh my God, that's hot. What about the way the information is presented? Is there any way that you guys like how it's presented? Do you like the storyboard reviews? Do you like Or do you want to see more talking about like specific concepts and like just me explaining them like last time? I think the last video was basically me talking about perspective for like an hour and a half, and then storyboard review for another half hour. I can do that. Before it used to just be like 2 hours straight of talking about one concept, and then that was the end of it. What else is it? What about Friday's stream? Is there anything that you guys enjoy about the Friday stream? I feel like that one's kind of just more fun, but I also feel like we can improve upon it and try to make it better as well. Because I think a lot of people that work in animation are characters, and they're great to talk to and see what they think. And then every now and then they'll drop like nuggets of information about how to do better. And so I like having them on. I like having them be there because you get to know them and you follow them and all types of things. Kay says, I love the reviews, to be honest. When I took a class, he would teach for half and review the other half, and I enjoy that. Okay, that's good to know. I feel like I should probably also create a better backdrop. Right now, it's just my room. And so it's kind of messy. I feel like I need like one of those like paper things that kind of make it seem more professional. I think I should improve the lighting. Maybe I'll put up some like lights up here to light me a little bit better. I should probably figure out how to make this mic work a little. I should probably get the mic on a stand, have it come down. What else? I should put something over in that corner. I should get like a giant pineapple or a giant portrait of something. Put that there. Kay says, especially as a beginner, it can be hard to get reviews not behind a paywall. Now the pineapple light works. A Bebop poster. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Or maybe I should just put up a green screen poster there, and then just swap it out every week with something new. That'd be fun too. Oh, I do have other posters. I do have other posters in my room. There's actually one over my desk, but Aiden says, have all your costumes on the wall back when the Halloween comes around. Oh, we haven't done the mukbang yet. Oh my god. I gotta do that for November and December. I'm really thinking about doing the two Costco pizzas things, but that won't happen for another at least 2 weeks. We're not gonna have a Friday stream, and then Tuesday we'll have the Tuesday stream, but I don't want to eat 2 pizzas then. So, and then I'll be gone for a week, and then I'll come back. Jordan says, how do you feel about the live action Bebop that's coming? I'm excited for it. I don't know what to think about it other than that. It's just like, well, I hope it's good. It seems like they care a lot about the project, so I'm excited for that. They got John Cho, and I think that was a smart choice. He's a good actor. He has a wide range. I heard he got hurt though, so I think it might be on pause for a little bit. They got the corgi, so I'm excited. If it's anything, the best case scenario would be it's like Blade Runner, right? The first Blade Runner, where Blade Runner was actually based on the book How Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and the book itself is really good, but it's a totally different story. It's not Blade Runner, Ridley Scott Blade Runner. It's a different thing altogether. And there are a couple of scenes in that book that are amazing that they don't have. They also explain like why the animals are so expensive and why they're robots. They explain why people are trying to leave Earth to go to the colonies. They have a part where Decker and his partner like voice comp each other, and that was like a really intense scene. There's like so much more in the book that's not in the movies, and the best case scenario is that we get 2 really good properties like Blade Runner and How Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Like it'd be great to have Cowboy Bebop, the anime, and then Cowboy Bebop, the live action, have both of them be great. Like that could be the best case scenario. Hey, what's up, Caleb? Kay says, oh my god, mukbang idea. Yes. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Kay says, I cried during the book when a sheep dies or is killed, rather. yeah, like the book is so good. It's amazing. Another really good book that's kind of controversial, but is I think it's worth reading is Fight Club. Both the movie and the book are interesting takes on that genre. I think more than anything, it's apt now with a lot of these with like the rise of like incels and red pill and stuff. Like Fight Club is it's written about stuff like that, but it's actually a criticism of it. So I think both are worth watching and reading. ATLA was same with ATLA. Avatar: Last Airbender. Yeah, same with Avatar: Last Airbender. Like the animated series is really good, and then the M Night Shyamalan series is really good too. It's a good exploration of what not to do with a perfect series. There is a live action one coming out that I'm excited for. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm also curious because I heard they're not doing the same story. It's similar. I think it's same characters but different stories. So I don't know. I have no idea anything about that, to be honest. Like I just think it's gonna be cool. Caleb says Fight Club is great and often misinterpreted by the types of guys it's trying to critique. Yeah. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let me finish the last one and we'll get going. Oh man, that is spicy. Hey, Min Mays. All right, we are back again. Another Tuesday. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you guys could make it out again. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here tonight, and I appreciate that. We were just talking about how to improve the stream, how to improve Tuesday's show and Friday's show. If you guys have any suggestions, just shoot them in the chat or hit me up on Twitter. If you're interested in editing or helping me edit this so it's a little bit more digestible, also find me on Twitter. Like I said, I'm doing this on my own, so I don't have like money or anything. Obviously, I'm not charging anyone, but if you're interested in editing or whatever, let me know. Okay, jokes. Jokes. We're going to talk about composition tonight and Klaus, the movie. If you haven't already, I posted up a link in the chat of some thumbnails I took of the movie. I'm not going to talk about anything story-wise or I'm not going to talk about anything story-wise or give away any spoilers since the movie just came out and I don't want to ruin it for anyone. So if you guys could also do that, that would be very appreciative. But I would definitely suggest checking out the movie. If not, just look at the thumbnails for now. All right, since we're talking about... Oh, I think we did that one. Damn. Okay, here's a great one, because this kind of reminds me of myself. Why did the forgetful man go for a run? Stupid. Why did the forgetful man go for a run? He was trying to jog his memory. Damn, that's so bad. Speaking of which, I read an article today. The article said that aerobic exercise is great for your brain because it actually helps you. It actually causes your brain to develop new neurons. It creates new pathways, etc. So let me see if I can find the article for that too. Aerobic exercise and brain. It explained about all the benefits of doing aerobic exercise and why you should be doing it. This is your brain on. Here you go. It's from Outside Magazine. It's really good. I would definitely suggest doing aerobic exercise. I think I've talked about this before. Anytime I go running, that's when I figure out all my problems and solve them. I try not to think about the problem itself actually, but as I run, the solution usually comes to me. It keeps me sharp. It lets me like calm down and think about other things and just kind of like zone out. But it goes to show that the science actually proves what I've kind of like found on my own, that running actually helps in a lot of ways mentally. It keeps you sharp. It makes you smarter to some degree. It allows you to be more creative. It's just good for you overall. So do some aerobic exercise. It doesn't have to be running. It can be anything that gets your blood pumping. So do that. If you guys haven't already, subscribe, hit the like button. You'll stay up to date on everything I do and see all my videos and whatnot. I try not to shill myself out so much, but I mean, I'm just leading into that YouTube life to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, hit that like icon, touch that bell, whatever you call it. You know what to do. Anyways, okay, let's talk about Klaus, because that's what we're here for, right? We are here to talk about Klaus. It's a new movie out by SPA, Sergio Pablo Animations, I believe. And, oh, we can get rid of that. And it is incredible. The movie is all 2D animation. If you haven't already seen people posting on Twitter about it, there's a lot of rough animation online, but it's basically a 2D movie, and they use software and some really smart computer techniques to make it look 3D. So this is, oh, not what I want. I was hoping to pan down or tab down, but I guess we'll just have to click on it individually. So it's all 2D animated, but it's a lot of smart cheats and a lot of smart design choices and whatnot. And tonight we're going to talk about a lot more of the design side of things and compositions and whatnot. And basically talk about why the movie is so damn good. To me, Klaus would be what Disney should have been if it stuck with the 2D animation film movies, etc., etc. Like if they didn't get rid of all their 2D animators, if they didn't completely stop doing 2D back in the late 90s, this is probably what we would have been getting for the last couple years, if not decades. And to be honest, I like this a lot better. The colors pop so much more. There's so much more style and character to it. The 3D movies are great in their own way, but like shots like this really tickle my funny bone. They get me like hyped up. There's so much amazing stuff with it. And again, this is all 2D. Like there's a video online that you can look for where they show their program that they use, Hoodoo, and basically they use Hoodoo to give it this softness. Like this softness that looks painted is actually all done with a computer. So they can choose, not only can they choose the shadows, like they kind of use a kind of like a pivot point system to do that, but they also have the program create texture, like paint textures. They can control the paint texture in the color. So all of this, even though it looks painted, well, the background is probably painted, but the characters is all like an animated program. And it's just amazing. It's mind-blowing what they can do. Like, yeah, his hand here, all of this is just a program that controls the texture. And what they do is they keyframe the shadows, and then they have the computer fill in the in-betweens. Same thing with some of the in-between poses. They'll have the computer do the poses for them. And it's insane. Like, you see the program work, and it's just like, whoa, like, I hope 2D comes back. I hope they bring back 2D. Because this just looks so good. It just looks amazing. It's mind-blowing. This could also be a huge thing for TV animation, too, where a lot of the TV animation is sent overseas, and because of that, there's a limitation to the quality of it. But if we have programs like this, we can bring it back to the States. We can send it to other studios that actually use the program, and they can do it and pump up the quality of animation in TV right now. So it's just amazing. Anyways, that being said, check out the movie. It's good. The story's good. Watch it. What we're going to talk about tonight is the compositions and what to look for when you watch Klaus or any type of movie, right? Like when I watch a movie, I'll usually watch it once just for entertainment, and then when I go back the second time, I'll actually think about analyzing it and studying it as a movie. So what that means is, like, I will spend time actually sitting down and then either taking thumbnails like this or drawing them out. And basically, if I really love the movie, I'll do multiple passes on it, right? So First one, watch for entertainment. Second one, a watch for maybe composition and design. And then the third one, shots or shot selection. And I'll alternate what I'm looking for, because some movies are the shot selection is much better. Whereas other movies, it's about the composition and the tone and stuff. So I'll watch it for that. But it definitely depends. What I'm trying to say is, just like when we talked about last week with perspective and how to create a composition that works with your perspective and how to approach that, watching a movie in multiple passes will also help you find out what's working and what's not working. Like don't try to watch it all at the same time. Don't try to take it all in on that first pass. Just enjoy the movie first and then go back into the technical stuff. So, okay. This is what I've been talking about for a long time now, about thickness. You want thick, deep shots, and there are a couple different compositions you can do in animation that are pretty simple, like very centered compositions where everything's in the center, everything goes deep like that. You have layers of people, you have a close foreground element, which is a letter, and then you have like super far away distant elements that create depth, and you always want to create depth in your work and whatnot. Same thing with this. This is kind of a similar thing between the two shots. This is kind of a similar setup as well, where it's kind of center focus. The horizon, the vanishing point is over here, and again we have repeating elements to show depth. We have a nice foreground elements, we have middle ground elements, and background elements. So there's a lot of thickness to it that we always talk about. Jordan asked, will we talk about perspectives today with these thumbnails? We will, actually. Not as technical as last time, but we will talk about perspective. Again, this is another centered horizon line shot. If you follow the lines on these, let me pull up the Photoshops. Okay. So I did my homework. I did my homework a little bit today. Okay. So just because you asked about perspective, let's go through that really quickly. Which pencil do I want? I'll use that one. Okay, so let me move the mic a little bit. Let me know if you can still hear me. Okay, so with this shot up here, the first one, when I was talking about it being like a center perspective type shot, I just mean like a lot of the things in the shot, a lot of the elements and visual elements converge towards the center of the composition, right? Like even the letter matches up with this. And by the letter, I mean like the edges over here. This edge, the edge of the conveyor belt, even the characters themselves. Like if we were to think about the characters' shoulders, I know they're kind of leaning over, but they kind of fall along this perspective line. And then if we want to get really serious about that, like we talked about last week, they're just boxes, right? Like if you think about their body as boxes, they kind of fit into this mold and they go down that way. So that's what I meant by a more center focused composition versus something like maybe this one, right? Like this one is not centered per se. He's off to the side here. There are a lot of foreground elements that block it off and kind of change the perspective. Well, they don't change the perspective, but the perspective is not dead center like we had talked about before. And we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But for now, I just wanted to talk about a little bit more about the way that the shots are set up and how the composition is. I think a lot of times people think about compositions as very flat, but you have to think about them as deep. You want your shots to be deep, you want them to be thick. And even though it's like one point perspective, like we had just discussed up here where it's in the center, you can still make your shots super, super deep. You can make them like, as in this case, as deep as a warehouse. And a good cinematographer or director to study is Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick has very center vanishing point, center compositioned shots. He has a ton of those where it's just dead center. but they're very deep shots, kind of like this. Like this could be like a hallway, this could be anything, like, or like in this case where it's a bunch of letters. And even though there's only one vanishing point, even though it's just centered, you can create a lot of depth, and you want to do that. You want to feel like you're getting swallowed up by the shot. You want the audience to feel like they can go into this world. Even on this shot where it's still centered and pretty flat, there is still a lot of depth to it, right? And this is something I talk about a lot when we do reviews, is like, you want that depth, you want to create some layers on things. So they're taking too much room over there. Oh, that's too much. Oh, stop it, Photoshop. Okay, so let's talk about like the different elements that they're using here. There's this foreground element here, which is this, I guess, banister. And then slightly further back are everyone in this area, like the people, their containers, etc., etc. So they're kind of like the middle ground. And then back of them is this, which is the, I guess, the shelf. And then back of that is the background, the windows. And you could even go further if you wanted to. Like, you could actually put a mountain in that background. Right now, you probably wouldn't see it because it's blown out from the light. But if you really wanted to, you could add another layer of depth. If we think about this shot in terms of just where is the perspective, I think this bouncer is kind of like wonky. The bouncer is a little bit off on both sides, I think. Maybe it's my brush. It might be a stylistic choice. I don't think it matches up exactly. Somewhere around here, right? It's like a general center focus again. And in this case, it's nice because it focuses directly on this person who has a bell. That's one thing that you can use vanishing points for. Vanishing points, if you have the vanishing point terminate at something you want people to look at, that's a good way for them to look there. So this guy is obviously the object of our focus, and the vanishing point of everything goes to him. So as a viewer, subconsciously, you'll just be like, I should look there. You won't know why. You'll just be like, I need to look there, and it's one thing you can do. That being said, like I said, even though there's like one vanishing point shot, and most of the elements in this shot are pretty flat, and by flat I mean there's not a whole lot of depth with them. Like this thing up here, this huge shelf thing, there's not a whole lot of depth. It's mostly just a grid. If we take a close look at it, you can't really see the bottom of this or the sides of this. It's there, but it's pretty much flat. But even though it's flat, it still is able to convey a sense of depth because you're layering things on top of it. It's in front, it has things in front of it, it's in front of something itself, and that's how you get thick shots from kind of like not crazy perspective, right? We're not having 2-point perspective, we're not doing crazy up shots or down shots. It's a pretty much a flat shot, but there's a lot of depth to it. So keep that in mind when you do your shots. Jordan says, do directors ask for specific perspectives, or is it up to the artist, or does it depend? I think it depends on the director. Sometimes when I have a sequence or when I'm handing out pages that I have certain shots in mind, I'll be like, okay, I need a 3/4 shot here. It needs to be like an up shot or down shot, and we want to see this and this. And because of that will dictate the perspective. If I say something like it needs to be a 3/4 shot, obviously it's probably going to be a little bit of an up shot or a little bit of a down shot into the side. You can obviously put the character in the center of the shot and make it a 3/4 shot, or you could have it flat like this and have it be 3/4, but I think people get the idea. It really depends on the director. Oh wow, I didn't notice that before. It really depends on the director. understanding perspective is definitely helpful and you should know it. But if you, I don't want to make a huge generalization about it, so it just depends. Understanding perspective will definitely help you with your work regardless, so understanding that is probably important. Understanding why I'm talking about perspective in terms of shots is so that when you watch these films, you have a context or a system for you to break these shots down, right? Before I started kind of like really studying films, I didn't understand the differences between shot to shot to shot to shot, right? I didn't understand what made this shot different compared to this shot, even though they're kind of similar, right? They're both very flat shots. They're both very middle kind of compositions. And I was just like, what's the difference? Like, why did they go from this one to this one, or maybe like from this shot to that shot? Like, I'm just telling you all the different things I notice so that it can help you when you also do your film studies or when you also pick shots and whatnot, right? Like, I'm just showing you the magic, and it's up to you to kind of like piece those magic pieces together and understand how the illusion is made, or why certain people do certain things, or what you feel watching it. So that's kind of my whole idea with this, is to show you what I'm looking at, show you how these shots work, show you the compositions that they're using, and from that, when you do your own studies, you can kind of start to pay attention to it. So this one's pretty flat, like I said. It has a center, vanishing point, center composition. The thing I was looking over here is pretty cool. Is like they did it's not a smear, but they have two poses for the hand moving. This kind of looks like oh, I thought that was another hand over there, but this is just because it is moving so fast. He has two hands. I wonder if there's more of that. Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't notice that before. Okay, so this shot as well is kind of a flat shot, right? Like, again, the composition, I think this is the exact same building, but just replicated. I don't think it's actually to a proper perspective. Do you guys have any questions? Post them up in the chat as always. I'll try to answer them. If something isn't making sense, just post it up and then we'll talk about it. So, I guess I was wrong. But why would that be that way? I think, here's my thought on this, is that I think this is one long pan. Can you say it? Maybe it's a long tracking shot. It's a long tracking shot with the character walking. So I imagine the paint, god damn it, Photoshop, stop being shitty. I imagine that the pan actually extends super, super long like this outside of what we can see. So the vanishing point is actually like down here. They're all kind of converging to the same one. So if we had another building, it would be like that, etc., etc., etc. So that's why I think the perspective for these buildings is kind of off and down like that. Whereas if you were to see, if you were to do this pan in live action, these buildings would probably just be straight like. If we were to do this pan in live action, and we had the same buildings, the buildings itself would be like this, straight to camera, and then they would kind of be like that, probably a little bit. Like the perspective would then be right here. It would be a center one again, with all the roofs connecting to it like that, right? Like I imagine it would be more something like this if it was in live action, just because the buildings would all adhere to that center perspective that we're talking about. But because it's animation and because we're not going to spend the time making a background 3D for no story reason, then we'll just do a long pan and then pan across as the character walks. But that being said, this is a very flat shot. This is still a center. Like I imagine the horizon line is somewhere here and the vanishing point is something like this, right? We're not really, maybe it's a little bit more like this, right in line, right above the plate that he's holding, right above that plate. And because we're not really seeing we're not really seeing the tops of their shoulders. We're not really seeing any curvature to him as a character. That's why I think it's more of a flat shot than actually like an up shot or a down shot. This is something that 2D animation can get away with. You can draw these characters pretty flat to the background, as long as you kind of layer them properly, and as long as you have them all be flat, you can create the illusion of it being deep, and while still also being very, very flat. Like these characters are all very flatly drawn. There's not a whole lot of tilt up or down. Even the ones in the back are probably just replicated. Like I think they're all replicated actually. So you're not going to adjust for the variances in perspective. That being said, it's a nice shot. There's a lot of depth to it. You have repeating elements to show it moving as it pans, and yeah, it's a nice deep flat shot. Kenny says, isn't this a 3D background with 2D characters though? I don't know actually. I don't know, because I don't think it actually turns in the movie. Like I don't remember exactly. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think it might just be a 2D background. I don't know. Don't quote me on it. What you need to take away is that it's a flat shot, but deep, using repeating elements. Here's something more of what I was talking about with like up shots and 3/4 shots. Now the characters aren't so flat. Now we're seeing like an up shot in this guy. We're seeing some volumetric turning. We're seeing the underside of his plate, etc., etc. And so what you want to do when you have flat shots like this, you want to contrast them with shots where it's kind of has a little bit more dimension to them and a little bit more turning. I guess turning is the best description. These shots are good because there's a lot of depth to them. Even though they're flat, there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of overlap. These shots have the same feeling, but we also want to see things that aren't so center focused, right? We don't want to see shots that are always in the dead center. You want to give a little bit of variance so that the eye doesn't get bored. Let me see. I might add something like that, right? Imagine something like this. Imagine it's something, it's kind of like a long lensy shot. There's not a whole lot for me to go off of in terms of perspective lines. I'm just kind of assuming that it's like this a little bit. I'm using the corners of, if I were to draw out the house like that, I'm using these corners, this corner, like to kind of line up the perspective grid to figure out where it is. Kind of like that. Well, technically, if I really wanted to figure out, I would just find out where this line and this line converge, and that would create a horizon line, and then wherever that horizon line converges with that, that would give me the perspective grid for the shot completely. But since Photoshop is not very useful in that aspect, we're just going to eyeball it. Something like that-ish. It's kind of like a flat 3/4 up shot. What I want to point out in the shot, though, which is very smart, is the background elements, right? So not only is the perspective kind of like this, so not only like are there repeating elements that go along this line, like with the tops of the roofs and stuff, it kind of acts as like a compositional element to focus your eye here. There's also this here that's kind of like pointing this way as well towards this guy's face. You know, is important because of that. Also, there's the background elements, right? Like this is definitely framing this guy's face. There's a point to that. Everything in 2D is designed to focus your eye. As long as it's a good 2D movie or TV show, The composition should always support the story and make you look in a certain direction. This acts as like a framing element for this guy, right? This is conveniently like cut off right here. And like, why is that? Why is it cut off? Like all the trees should be going like straight up like that, right? It's cut off so your eye kind of leads this way. If it was all the way up like this, there would be a lot of open space here, and that would distract the eye. You would probably look here instead of looking at him. And that's because when there's a lot of open space, let me take a step back. When there's a lot of complicated shapes like this that are very complicated, contrasting something with like a lot of simple shapes where there's nothing or just open space, your eye will tend to like slip into those open spaces. So if this line wasn't here and it was just a tree, our eyes would kind of just be like, oh, this is all busy. Like, I don't want to look at all that stuff. Like, let me go here and rest. And so you would be taken out of the composition. You'd be looking at something that's not important, something that's not relevant to the story, which is this stuff, right? Like, you want to keep it here. So the whole reason why they chopped it off like that was to keep your eye that way. It's like perfectly in line with him. Again, all these other elements are used to kind of like focus your eye, like focus. They act as like little tiny like bounces, like it bounces off inside to focus your eye back to what's important. And you don't have to do this when you're starting out, right? Like, this is good to know, this is good to apply, but don't get caught up in the details about this right now. Don't get crazy about it, right? And I'll show you how we can approach this later on after I go through this. I'll show you a method that I use to approach all of this and what I did to study it, but I'm just pointing out to you for now. Don't get overwhelmed. I'm just showing you the trick so that when we go and talk about it later on and when I show you how to do it, it's not so overwhelming. Anyways, that's a really good composition, very interesting, very like cool. This is a longer shot, actually. It actually continues on, and there's like there's a tent here, and it kind of pans over this way. I just like this shot because there's like a huge open area. It was nicely designed. Again, it focuses our eye on this guy. Not only is it like kind of high contrast there, it's high contrast here. It's a different shot than what we've saw before. This is more of a flat down shot, and you try to avoid these in animation just because it's really hard to have a person walking. And also because it's not always visually interesting in terms of shot choice. This is a very dynamic shot, and it's very good for like talking and whatnot and action. This type of shot is kind of just like, it's very flat, it's very boring. You're not getting a whole lot of information out of it right now. We do get to see the area a lot more, and we get to see where they are. But in terms of character, we get zero character acting from him, really. These buildings are very boring. This is not telling us much. This tent is telling us a lot. It tells us it's important, but other than this and this, everything else is kind of like whatever. So these like flat down shots are not, they're useful in conveying space, but they're not always useful in conveying story. So just keep that in mind. This shot I like a lot because of the composition of it. We haven't even talked about color yet. Color is a whole nother beast, between like light and dark, hot and cool, texture, no texture, like all these things are just, it's a whole nother realm that you don't have to worry about as storyboard artists. But when thinking about choosing your shots, it's always nice to keep in mind, right? Like, I'm sure when the storyboard artist did the shot, he wasn't thinking like light and dark per se, or maybe he was thinking he was backlit by this, but it definitely helps to keep the eye in here. The contrast in light and darkness helps to focus your eye in this area, right? The light areas and the dark areas. This is like what Tony Zhao says is like a picture in a picture, right? You want to create these frames inside of frames to focus your eye. If you have a window of some sorts in a shot, your eye will typically go into this area, right? Like if you have spaces that are enclosed, your eye will like kind of get trapped in there. And that's kind of what happens here. Your eye gets trapped in this area, which is important. All the important information is in here. And it conveniently also crosses over where it's important right here. Right, this guy's face. Where that window is broken is by this guy. Similarly, the light contrasts with the dark here. He's a very dark figure compared to the light over here, etc., etc., etc. Like, there's a lot of like compositional things that are going on here, and trying to explain each one might get a little bit overwhelming. But what to take away from this is pictures in pictures, like that, and then light and dark. This light area compared to his dark area. Also think about like how that space is divided, right? He's about half of it right now. Then there's this thing, and then this thing, right? Like this is all purposely chosen. This thing, the way it crosses his face, is purposeful. This, all this is chosen for a reason. Even this nose here points to him. That nose points to the guy, right? It's everything is directed towards his face, and it's just through composition. I think a lot of times when people are doing these shots for storyboards, like TV storyboards, what they'll do is they'll just, this is the frame, or you know, they'll just draw a person like this, right? They'll just draw a person talking, and then maybe they'll add in the grid line like that, and then that's it, right? They'll just be like, a person's talking at a 10, like that. And this is boring. Like, this is not a good shot, right? Compositionally, there's nothing exciting going on. We're not really guiding the eye here. There's not a whole lot that's being said with this shot either. And I talked about this before. Backgrounds will help you sell a lot about character and mood, even if it's not the character, right? Even if what we're looking at doesn't actually relate to the character at all. Like all this stuff in here doesn't relate to him, but it helps direct our eye here. And composition does that, right? You want to have these elements in it, these background elements that will help lead your eye here. And the nose, the curtain that cuts right through his head like that, this curtain that leads you to him over here as well, right? Like all these, this leads you here, this leads you here, this cuts his head right here and leads you there. Even these kind of like pillars here, these tent poles, what happens a lot of times is that when we look at these things like this, our eyes will kind of bounce off of them and go in a direction, like they'll bounce toward that. Kind of like how like when you're playing ball games like pool or marbles or something, our eyes are always like bouncing off of these shapes. And we think boom, like that, like, or like boom, and kind of like they all bounce and divide the space. And the way you divide that space should always kind of like lead you back to what's important, right? This all kind of like leads you in that area. This leads you down like that. This obviously just goes to his face. That goes to his face. So there's two different concepts you can use. One is having things directly point at the person. Point. This kind of like points a little bit that way. What else? If they had set up these candles like this, or like let's say the candles are like a step like that, those will also kind of like point you that way as well. So you have elements that point you towards a character, like the nose and this curtain. Does this point you that? No. But you also have elements that like act as bounces that frame you in that direction, right? This kind of like your eye kind of like bounces off of these things and goes that way. Same thing with this, it kind of like bounces you that way. This just intersects his face, so that's just a nice break. But so there are two ideas. One is like pointing elements, and then there's like bouncing elements, and you should use both in your work to focus the eye. That's what composition is. Composition is used to help focus the eye on what's important, and also to create something visually stimulating. That's what the depth is. The depth helps you give visual stimulation. The composition like this will help guide your eye towards story points or whatever is important. Does that make sense? Oh. Let me get a Ricola. Minmay says, yep. Caleb says, makes sense. Okay, so in the same way that we talked about that last shot, this shot also uses really good framing elements as well. Like I said, with the bouncing stuff going on. Boink, bounces. This obviously like frames it in. This is like your picture-in-picture right here, right? This is our picture-in-picture. We've used the general as one side of that frame. We use this curtain thing. The other thing to notice is that not all of these things are in the same depth of field, right? Oh, God. Same depth of field. This guy is really close to the camera. This is further back. This is kind of further back, etc., etc. So when you think about these compositions, they don't have to be all in the same depth. They can be layered on top of each other. But if you look at 2D, it creates like it will create that picture. So keep that in mind as well. The other thing about shapes like this, like triangles work in two different ways. Triangles can point you to something like that. But triangles can also like open up. If a triangle is like this and opens up, your eyes will tend to go down to whoever's over here. And that's what's happening in this situation. It also helps that this plant here is pointing down like that towards him. These elements are kind of pointing down that way. Even this shape kind of like goes that way as well. This kind of goes that way. All these things, all these like smaller things are all pointing you toward him. Jesper. If you think about this shape as a whole, like that, it kind of just fills up this space up here, so your eye doesn't pinch up here. It's to help bring you back down this way. Same thing with all these other smaller elements. It's just to fill in the space, to make it complicated, so that your eye doesn't go there right now, right? We had talked about this earlier, how our eye tends to focus on the open space to things, right? We talked about up here how this will have been an open space. It's the same concept here. There's an open space here, and our eyes are meant to like stay in this area. By having all these other elements like this, like that, the window, this stuff here, all these complicated elements are to help to lead us to right here. That's all it is. It's just leading the eye. Using elements to point you in a direction, using elements to make it complicated, using elements to create contrast. So it's the contrast that helps to sell the idea. Right? All this stuff is just for him. If we wanted to talk about it in terms of like light and dark, the high contrast areas are where our eye will go to first. That's why eyeballs, as humans, when we look at each other, we typically look at people in their eye because of the high contrast between the white of our pupils and the dark colors of our retinas. Also, in terms of our face, our features are pretty dark compared to the rest of our face, so our eyes will typically go there just because it's high contrast. And in this case, I think the highest contrast area is probably if you to figure out what areas are high contrast, just squint at them and they'll come out to you. I think the highest contrast is like here, but oh no, I think it's here actually. I think he's the highest contrast. Yeah, he's higher contrast for sure. So that's also a thing that you can do. Another thing that helps to guide the eye is having things autofocus. Having this guy soft focus tends to make our eyes go to what's sharp. If something's out of focus, our eyes will go to what's sharp. That's how rack focuses work. Rack focuses have something in out of focus and then it comes in focus, or eye will go to that when it becomes focused. Just a bunch of design tips and tricks. I like this shot a lot just because it's really well composed. This is nice. These broad shapes like this. Even these pillows. Okay, this is what Arthur talked about in our other stream. When you overlap things like this, like the pillows, what tends to happen with our eyeballs is our eye will follow that overlap, right? It'll follow the overlap and see where it goes. Kind of like a stone step pathway, right? Like when we look at stone step pathways, we're like, boop, 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 boop. We know where to go. It's kind of the same thing with this, where the overlaps create a little pathway for us. If we want to get super serious, if you want to take it up a notch, if you want to get super spicy, you want to be Emerald Lagasse and bam, spice it up a notch, we can talk about zigzags. There's this line of the carpet that goes like that. I don't know if you can see this. So there's the carpet here, you go like that, and then it kind of like hits this thing and goes up like that. And then obviously we're already at the guy, but this creates a zigzag. This creates a zigzag here like that as well, right? There's all these like small design things that you can do to create paths into the picture. So we have like window in window, or frame in a frame, which is that thing right here that we talked about. We have elements that point to the object, pointing elements, literally like pointing objects, things like that, things like that. We have contrast with light and dark. We have overlaps. We have soft focus and or out of focus stuff versus in focus. Out focus BS, in focus. And then we also have zigzags. These things, zigzags are pathways. Zigzags. Like all these in connection work together to direct your eye. And then we can also talk about color, cool versus warm, but I'm not as well versed in that, so I'm going to stick away. And as storyboard artists, we're not dealing with color, so don't worry about that. But using all these techniques in this one shot, they guide your eye here. All right. So with this shot, they kind of do the same thing again, right? Like, I won't say anything, just take a look at it for a little bit. Try to apply what I talked about earlier and like point out what is going on with the shot, like where is our focus supposed to be, what elements are they using to kind of like guide us there. Think about what design principles they're using, think about the composition as a whole, right? The previous shot was our first introduction to the character Jesper. This is a second shot of him, and we get a little bit of his acting, his personality in it. So it's a very interesting shot. The other thing I like about the shot a lot is that he himself creates a lot of the depth. If you pay attention to his feet here, that's in like the foreground elements. So you don't always have to have objects be the foreground elements. You can also have the same character be a foreground element. You can have yeah, I guess you can have objects, you can have him. I like it because it's him, so it like leads you into the shot. He himself, his legs and everything becomes kind of like that pathway into the shot, which is really nice. If you look at New Hope, when Han and Greedo are talking to each other, you'll notice that they do a similar thing. Like Han's feet is like really close to the camera, but it's in such a way that it kind of like points to points to his face, and it's really cool. It's a nice shot. And then Greedo goes, "I'm gonna shoot you," and he goes, "McClunky." Pew! Oh man. McClunky. Okay, let's talk about the composition now. You guys had some time to think about that. You had some time to like think about Star Wars and how they McClunkied it up. So first, it's a pretty flat shot. I think it's somewhere like, I'm just gonna say it's somewhere around here. You can't really get too much depth out of the shot just by looking at it, but I imagine it's just like another centered shot. Let's talk about like the try picture in picture right now, kind of like this type thing going on. Boop. Right. There's not really a picture in picture necessarily, but there are a lot of elements that seem to kind of like keep your eye locked in here. Like that. These elements all kind of like work together to keep your eye in this general area. Yeah, Aiden says his torso makes like a zigzag leading you there, kind of like that. Same thing on this side, which is really nice because it goes from out of focus to in focus. It's a nice little thing. You also have these other like bounce elements that are going on here, like this points straight to him like that. Same thing with that, like kind of like that. Again, where I was talking about how objects kind of like lead you there. That's like one way to do it as well. Like that. There's also a lot of complicated shapes in this area. This is very complicated. Oh my god, my phone's blowing up. There are a lot of complicated shapes in all of these areas here, but where it's very simple is right here. Like right in this area. So our eye will go to that area. What else is going on? The highest contrast is kind of his face again, which is good to keep our eye there. Again, it's just like a lot of small things in tandem. This pole here is really well placed because it keeps your eye right. It kind of like traps your eye around here. This kind of like creates a nice little trapping for your eye. If this wasn't here, if this pole wasn't here, our eye would kind of like, it would kind of create like this now, right? It would kind of be more, it would swing from this area to this area, like kind of like back and forth a little bit. But this helps to like stop it. It just like gets it trapped right there. A lot of times while I do my own, when I'm storyboarding and doing my own backgrounds, usually I'll lay out the character like this first, right? Like I'll draw out what's important. I'll be like, okay, I know what type of shot I want. I know where him to be like that. I'll think about his acting, whatever. And then I'll be like, okay, what can I do to fill in the background or foreground to create those compositional elements? Like I'll be like, okay, there probably should be like a leaf here like they did on their own. I might even bring in the leaf stem here like that to create another like framing element so it doesn't go anywhere. I'd probably do what they did, something like this, adding in some type of background element over here as well. And then same thing on the other side like this, I'd probably create like another framing element as well. And so I think about the composition sometimes after I finish the shot. Sometimes I'll do it at the start, sometimes I'll do it later. But basically I'm just trying to fill in spaces that are too open. I think this is really smart. I might have to use this myself. But I'd probably just add in another leaf maybe. Like I'd probably put in like another leaf here. But that might be a little distracting. You know, I might consider putting in a leaf here. I'd probably definitely put in something here. Or I guess I have this here, which is nice because his hand. Right. This shot is also very interesting just because like it's like a two shot, but we still get a lot of the same design elements going on and we get to focus on the characters and whatnot. You can tell from shot to shot, they fudge the placement of things a little bit so that the composition works, right? Like if we compare this shot to this shot, this table is now further away than it was here. The leaves itself are kind of a little bit in a different position, just slightly. This thing is a lot lower in the shot than this shot. It's also a little bit bigger, I think. They fudge it just a little bit. Even these pillows are not in the same position as this one down here. It's just so that the composition works. You're just trying to make the composition work and keep the objects in the general same area. Like, no one's gonna pick this out when they watch the movie. It's just something to keep in mind. Like, you can fudge the composition just a little bit so it works. You can fudge it to make it to guide the eye. No one's gonna tell you like, man, what's up with that? Why didn't they keep the palm leaves in the same spot? The continuity in this movie is terrible. I do not believe what's happening, etc., etc. Whatever. No one cares. Just make it seem similar and use it to help the composition. Okay, moving on. This composition, I took the wrong screenshot for this, but it's a nice shot because it's flat but deep. And let's go to the next one and talk about it a little bit more. Whoop. All right. This is like a nice wide shot. It's just like landscape juice. It's just like, oh, this is so beautiful. It's just great. We could talk for days about the composition, about like the depth and how the objects are placed and the colors and everything. It's just gorgeous. Just so gorgeous. It's just a nice painting. I'd want this in my house. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about shot choice and composition and how that leads to things. So this is just a nice BG. When you draw your BGs, make it look like this. Make it have composition to it. Make it feel something. Make it look good. Don't just have like flat BGs all the time. Give your BGs some love. That's what will make your work have a little bit more character. Okay, this shot and this shot. These two shots are similar in the sense that they have foreground elements that overlap background and medium ground elements, right? And I like to use these shots because in animation, it's very easy to, it's a good cheat. It's a good cheat to use. So if we think about this as like the foreground element, everything in this area is like a foreground element, right? Everything in the back over here is like background, etc., etc. And so it creates it automatically creates a really deep shot because of the overlap. And you can also get away with showing stuff without having to actually show, like, you can kind of get away with a lot of animation cheats with this, where like if you have someone go over the edge here, you can then show them at the bottom now really tiny, right? Like if you went and fell over, or if we saw him going this way and then later on we saw him over here, like it creates depth really quickly. It's a good way to hide animation. It's a good way to show composition elements like that. Like I like to use these shots as well just because they're nice. They're nice compositions because it creates depth and they're also easy on the animation. Min says, for a wide BG shot like that first one, would the design be up to the storyboards or the BG artist? It would probably be up to the, it's like a melding of the two. No one can control a Jaeger by themselves. It always takes two pilots. It takes two pilots to move a Jaeger. The mental load is too much for one person, so you need two people to help you with it. It depends on the production itself, but if you give a good, like, it depends on the production. If the designs are done first, then you probably won't have to come up with a crazy BG like this. Someone will have drawn it out already, and you can just probably like cut, paste, right? You just cut it and paste it into your boards, and then you draw your little person, and then yay! If the designs aren't done ahead of time and they're going off of your boards, you will have to come up with some type of BG similar to this. Some people will just like phone it in really quickly and be like, whoop. And some mountains, right? Like I'd probably do something like this. But I think I'm going to steal this BG. I'm going to use it now. Right, like something like this. Like I'd probably create a BG like this for this shot. I always like to put things really close to camera. Have a little thing up here like a lizard or something. I would have some overlaps with this, and then some overlaps here. That's a, oh wait, where's there? If this is our guy, I'd probably have like some mountains like that. I'd probably do a river as well, like that. Probably put something here like a little pond. So our eyes are kind of like focused in this area. These little mountains will focus us here. This thing will focus us here. I'd probably have the mountains in the background kind of like point in this direction a little bit more, like that. But, so what I'm trying to say is that if you, as a storyboard artist, don't have a design given to you, then yes, you do have to create the BG. You don't have to make it perfect. You just have to give them like enough. You have to get it like 50% of the way there, and then the BG artist will take it the rest of the way. They'll be like, okay, your perspective's a little off. Like let me fix that. Let me give it that extra touch in composition. Like let me give you that extra feel. Like they'll give it that final touch. But if you give them a good just a good or a solid base to work off of, it makes their life easier. It makes your look work better. It's a two-pilot system. It's like Jaeger. You and the other artists are in a giant. This is you, the storyboard artist, and this is the designer. Oh wait, let's make this a good partnership. So we're both putting our hands out like that. Yeah. This is a designer. And you guys are both in a giant Jaeger, right? And this Jaeger is actually the animation production. This is animation. There's like a neck here, and then in this part there's all these other people as well. You guys are all working together. Yeah, don't forget the Dracula thing in the background for his thing. It's Gypsy Danger. She's nuclear. It's analog. And so you guys are working together. You're like churning out butter together, making things happen as a team. So yeah, sometimes you'll have to draw that background, sometimes you won't. It's always good to know. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be like 50% of the way there. Just a nice composition, just something good to look at, you know. Anyways, getting back to what I was talking about with this shot. This shot and this shot is that they both apply like a heavy foreground element that kind of like acts as a way into the picture and also can help hide a lot of things. If you have like these very close foreground elements that take up a lot of space, you can create depth and hide stuff very easily. Like you don't have to have anything happening here. You can just have it happen in this area, but it's a nice composition. So I like using these compositions as well. Like I like having really close foreground stuff like this, and then having them act out in this area and then just nothing in the background. So that's a different type of composition. This is like a more medium ground focused composition where you have heavy foreground elements and then all the acting takes place in like a medium ground spot and then the background's open. This is more just like everything background area, right? So this is everything in the background. There's no really foreground stuff or anything. There is a medium ground, I guess. This could be considered medium ground, but really it's just like a painting. So why I point this out is because when you're looking at shots as well, think about what is happening in them. Is it happening in the foreground? Is it happening in the middle ground? Is it happening in the background? Think about that too. We're just talking about composition on the other page, but this one is more about shots. Like think about where in the composition is the action happening? How are they staging it? How does that look? How does that affect things, right? And then just to quickly go over this one as well. This helps focus the eye here. This kind of like creates that picture I was talking about, like boom, bounces off, goes down that way. High contrast area. This line kind of goes that way. You know, yeah. Same thing with this, just whoop, that zigzag we're talking about, like that. This one's, there's not too much going on here, but it's just nice. It's a nice composition. This is more like just a flat painting type background again. There are some foreground elements here, but you know, it's very flat. It's very just well laid out. Oh, baby. Picture in picture we're talking about. High contrast area. I wouldn't say the feet point to him, but they act as a framing element. So that frames it here. This was a really cool shot, just because you actually don't see too much of what's in it. It's just very moody, and I like that. That's kind of the reason why I picked that one out. I like this shot because it's super deep, and you have like a lot of foreground elements that lead you in like that. It's also one of the few shots in this that are like super, like I feel like it's skewed perspective. Like the upshot on this is really hard or really extreme. And it's like one of the few times you'll actually see this in the movie, and it's nice. Like it's just different. I was like, oh, that's different. That's cool. Again, we're talking about picture-in-picture shots like this. Whoops. Where'd my colors go? Picture-in-picture again, like that. This even frames it down like that. So, are you guys seeing it? Are you guys seeing the magic? Seeing the magic of composition and how it works? Oh, this is nice. I didn't even notice this, but this creates like a nice little woo down that way, right? Oh, that's nice. You guys see it? It's like magic, and when you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know how this thing works. Oh God, this thing works. Like woo. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Woo. Once you know how this thing works, you can never unsee the composition. Even this is like picture in picture. It creates and then a smaller window and a window. It's nice. It's very nice. Branded to my eyeballs. Okay, that's good. That's good that you guys are seeing it, because that means we can go to stage 2. This is stage 1. Stage 2 is actually studying it, right? Like we're studying it, but now we're going to study it in the second stage. The second stage is going and watching the movie, and every time they change shots, do a thumbnail, right? So let's say we were watching this movie right now. And it cuts to this shot of a bell. What I would do is, whoop. Actually, let's undo that. And this is how I was taught to get better at shot selection, is I'd pause the movie, and then take like, give me a second to set this up. Duplicate. Right, so make yourself a little thumbnail grid or something, whatever. It doesn't have to be on the computer, it can be anywhere. And what I do is, when that shot comes up, I pause it, and then it should only take you about like 10 to maybe 30 seconds to quickly put down what you're seeing. And just use black and white. No toning for now, just copy that composition, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get the general elements in there. Something more like that. Even this has all the stuff pointing to it. Nice. So pay attention to it. Something more like that. pay attention to how much of it's taking up of the frame. Pay attention to where like where it intersects the frame. So it intersects it down here like that. It kind of comes up to about maybe like a third of the way up here. So a little bit more like this. All right. We're looking for we're studying the composition. We're studying the composition. So look at where like things intersect the frame. Think about think about it in like halves, like that. Think about how it fits in a half like that. And then also think about how it fits into like a thirds. Again, it doesn't have to be completely perfect. Just get close. Just get your eyeballs getting used to it, right? So I'm like, oh, that's a little bit too much, right? And if you really need to, if it'll help you out, if you have a hard time like studying it just by looking at it, then what I would suggest you do is when you have these thumbnails, make a grid over them like that. And that's like a very quick way to check your work, right? Like the way you check your work now is, where does this intersect here? Does this intersect in the same spot? Not really. It crosses below this one. Hey, I got it. Like that. But it shouldn't hit this third line, so it should probably be closer up here, right? The bell should be more here. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. This one is wrong. That one should be like that. So that's how you study. If you really want to get the shot down super tight, just put a grid over it. You don't have to do it, but you can. That's one way to do it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is study the shot composition. Study how they set it up by looking at it in terms of a grid, looking at it in terms of like where things are pointing. Oh, I didn't add in the thing, right? Like I think I actually drew the, oops. I think I drew the rope the wrong way the first time. I drew it like that, but it's actually like this. Interesting. Anyways, what I'm saying is do a thumbnail. If you're having a hard time figuring out if you're drawing it right, put a grid over it, put a grid over that, and then just copy it then. So that is my tip to you on getting better at understanding compositions. This is how you get better at coming up with interesting compositions. This is about how you get better at knowing how to structure a composition, knowing how to like do all those things I talked about, like picture in picture, overlaps, pointing towards things, etc., etc., etc. This is how you do it. This is what I was taught. This is like what I think is the fastest method, because you're basically creating inside your head a visual library. You're putting in there shot by shot a visual library of compositions that you can draw upon. You don't know it's in there. You don't know you have it, but when you're told to do it, it'll come back. And if you do it enough, they'll come back all the time. You'll start to see it. It'll start to become a thing. You'll begin to believe. You'll be like Neo. You'll be able to see things and feel them and be the one. He's beginning to believe. Okay, let's move this down. Okay, says, so I've been recommended this advice, but I get stuck on making things look pretty. Any ideas on how to get over that? And Minmei says, cool study tip. Okay, so the way to get over that is, let's say you're doing it on a computer, right? Like Photoshop or something, and you have Netflix open up on your second monitor. Find a nice chunky brush. Find a chunky boy. Get yourself a chunky boy brush. So go up to Windows, get your brush. Either, I don't know what you guys like, but I like a nice fat rectangular brush. Turn off all its like fun features. Just make it just chunky boy. Find a chunky boy like that. Turn off everything. It should not have anything fun. Just make it chunky. Why is this so scratchy? There you go. This is a chunky boy. Or if you're doing it on paper, just get yourself a fat Sharpie, right? And we'll take this shot. This is a very challenging shot already. And just take that fat chunky boy and be like, okay. I'm going to just place him down like that and arm up like that. Boop. And I'm not changing the size of the brush right now at all. I'm not really trying to capture all the detail. I'm just trying to capture their silhouette. I'm thinking about where their feet are in the shot. I'm thinking about where everyone's kind of standing in the shot when I'm looking at this. And then I'm also thinking about what spaces they take up. Like what type of shape are they making and how much space are they taking up. So I think this could be probably a little bit more like that. Right, and then also think about just playing around with shadow, or I guess kind of like, I don't want to say shadow, but just how to convey that shape, right? So that's basically that shot. It's kind of a very complicated shot, but we have the general idea of what's happening. We have this kind of like this tapering of them, and that's what you want to see. Let your eye do the work. Don't try to like make it perfect. Like for this one, I'm going to do this one next. You don't have to make it perfect. Just chunk it in. Just chunk it in like that. Maybe we'll get a little fancy and give it a little cutout right here. Like, ooh, yeah. And then I need a little bit more detail with his neck, but ah, shit. I think so I drew him a little too high. Yeah. Want to get fancy, do something like that. Right, like we don't need facial features necessarily. We don't need a whole lot of other things. Maybe one of these. Right? Just like that. I don't even know if we need those background ones. We can just leave it at that. Or just like that. Maybe that. Maybe that. But basically, this is the idea. I don't even think we need to show his hand. We're just looking for the general silhouettes of things. If you want to combine two different things into one, try to figure out where that perspective line is in the shot, right? So we got the silhouette. Now try to figure out where that horizon is, where the vanishing point is, how you would create a perspective grid for the shot. Since I imagine their shoulders to be along the same height, just like that, and then their eyeballs to be similar like that. Boop. You got yourself a nice little perspective grid already. And I imagine the depth, if it was a box like that, right? Thinking about things like box, they'll go like that. So there you go. Boop. Two in one. You get yourself a composition, and then you get yourself some perspective, and it's all good. You get all fun times. But you don't have to do the perspective thing. That's just me. If you want to do it, that's fine. You don't have to. This is more about composition studies. We're looking at the shot and we're studying the composition, right? That's all this is. Just compositional studies. For shots like this where you have more close-up stuff, sometimes I'll give it a little bit of more detail. As you get better and better with this, and you start to see things, like you can start to add in details. But for now, I would suggest just going with the composition. All right. And just stick with black and white for now. Some people say like adding in a gray will help. I'm just like, it will, but not yet. Just stick with black and white. But you can already see, just by doing like a black and white type study like this, you can see the composition and how it's working, right? Like you can see these things in how your eye's being led there. Caleb says, I also recently had a teacher recommend to me literally setting a timer and just forcing myself to move on to the next thumbnail when the timer runs out. Yeah, having a timer, definitely. Like, it will definitely force you to just get it done. You won't be able to noodle it, and so you have to start to pick out like the best shapes. You just pick out the broadest shapes and you just do it and then move on. Like if I had like 10 seconds, like 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 7, 8, 1009, 1010. There you go, something like that, right? Like you just are trying to capture the basic silhouette of it. I would definitely suggest, if you're having a hard time noodling it, that's a good thing. I would also suggest actually going back and studying it, studying the shot too, because it's not necessarily about just doing them, it's about understanding them as well. So find a good balance between speed and analysis. Do both. Speed and analysis. Like, spend time studying it and spend time doing it. Spend time studying it, spend time doing it. You need to do both. You need to do both. All right, so we're just getting the basic shape in. All right, this is kind of it already. It's an interesting composition. There you go. Just keep doing them. Ooh, this one's nice. Chunky boy. Get that chunky brush working for its money. Let's just close it off like that. You know, I did that one wrong. I did that one wrong. Boop. Boop. Let's get those big pieces in there first. Ooh, now it's getting complicated. Now this is getting complicated. Something like that, right? Hey, no spoilers, Kevin. No spoilers. So do these studies. These studies are good for composition. They'll help you with your composition. The side benefit of it is that you'll start to understand shot flow. You'll start to see like close up to medium to close up. So like you'll see how the shots connect to each other, and that's just like a side benefit of doing this. But these studies are for composition and understanding how to like compose your shots nicely. So focus on that. Does anyone have any questions? Whoa, it's 9:24 already. Damn. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, post them up in the chat. Let me go check the emails and see if anyone uploaded anything. Otherwise, we can keep talking about stuff. Kevin says, you can see his magnificent size in the trailer. That may be true. That may be true. I don't think I watched the trailer, actually. All right, Caleb Carr. Hey, one thing. Nice. Nice. Whoa, Steven, you. Whoa, it's moving right. It's a moving. Does anyone have any questions? Anything you want me to go over again? Any tips? Anything you want me to talk about? Kenny says Klaus is about Santa Claus. What? I know, right? Like, how? You can't just give that away. It's not. Oh God. Ugh. Oh, I forgot. We didn't even get to page 4 because I was just enjoying myself. When I was talking about how this is what Disney would have been had they continued going on, I mean it partially because the animation is so good and so stylized, but also the colors. This color palette feels much more like a modern color palette than what they're doing back in the day. It's much more saturated, much more vibrant. It still feels realistic, but stylized so well. Like, yeah, the contrast in color here, the saturation, like, you wouldn't see this for like a snow scene. You might see it for like Maleficent and Sleeping Beauty, or you might see it in Little Mermaid. Ursula's song will have colors like this, but man, this is like such nice color usage for just such a casual scene. It's just, oh, it's so good. It's like colors for the soul. I just look at them and I'm like, oh yeah, give me more of that. It's just amazing, just amazing. Ooh, nice little tip that I kind of skipped over and didn't talk about before. Let me see if I can find a good example of this. Yeah, we'll just go with that one. These bushes over here are kind of nice. Because even though they are little tiny like segmented things, when you think about them, you actually think about them as like a full shape. Or visually, it's a full shape. If you follow the tips of it, it's like that. Same thing with this thing here, like that. So you can use the tops of bushes. Oh my goodness. You can use these tops of bushes to lead the eye places. So if you want to create a bush, just do that and then like break it up or something with interior lines. They actually do that a lot in this movie, where they have, this is basically a shape like that, and they just cut away at it. You just cut away at that shape. Same thing like this, right? You're creating you're creating a generic shape, and then you cut away at it to give it that organic feel to it. Whew. Oh baby, look at these colors. These colors, man, so good. This composition, so nice. Just, whew. Simple area, complicated area. Dark colors, they kind of group together. Light colors. Everything kind of points in that direction. These kind of point up here. Whoop. All point up that way. This one goes back to him. If you look at the tips of this forest like that, this kind of creates that shape too, right? Like the tips of it, the tips of objects kind of create like shapes themselves and guide you places. They guide you down. In this case, it frames these two things. It's like framing. Boop, 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 boop. This is definitely a framing one over here. This kind of leads that way again. Tips of the houses like that lead up that way. Oh baby, yeah, look at this stuff. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, study Klaus. Klaus is a good movie to study because it's 2D animation, because the compositions are strong, because it's just so well done. It is just amazingly well done. Okay. Klaus is up. Caleb says, assignment was to use Steven Universe characters for this one. Also, it's set to music, but the music is copyrighted, so you might want to mute. Kevin says, I'm sorry, Kenny. The backgrounds are super Samurai Jack aesthetic. And then Kay says, these remind me of Mary Blair's work for Disney. You guys are kind of both right. I think they draw from both of them, like Mary Blair, Irvin Dale, Samurai Jack stuff. Do I have their book? Let me see. Oh, I'm an old man. Shoot. Oh. Here are two books that talk about composition in terms of animation, in terms of what we're doing in like shot selection. One is Dreamworlds by Hans Bacher. Let me switch over. Let me switch over. So I have two books. One is Dreamworlds by Hans Bacher, production design for animation, and he talks about composition and color and a bunch of stuff in this. See, like here. That's what we're talking about basically. Balance of shapes, distribution of shapes, da 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 da. And it's very simple and he doesn't go into too much detail about it, but you can kind of see him doing his own types of studies and whatnot. Right? So that's it. This book is pretty good for that. We see some production artwork as well, like the movies he worked on, etc., etc. See? Some basic rules. Talking about, let's see what he says. Let's see what he says. The script move have to action drive. A good composition should have the right selection of order, rhythm, and intelligent balance. That balance is between space, the negative area that is all around your objects and defines their shape, and the objects or the positive form that defines the readability of your design. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. And then he talks about, in this one page, talks about like book, the Noble approach, Maurice Noble, Zen of animation design. He did a lot of the Looney Tunes backgrounds, and his stuff is just so good. It's just solid. Solid. And I'm not sure if he was contemporaries with like Mary Blair and those other people, but he's just another great artist with super, super good compositional skills. Yeah. And he talks a little bit too about his oh, he did What's Opera Doc? Oh my god. Yeah, that's from What's Opera Doc, where Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd do some opera together. Oh my god. Character color. Oh, he goes into color design. Man, I gotta read this book. I think I just bought it and read like 5 pages. He goes into color design. Look at this. Split complementary, opposing, complementary, da da da. Oh my goodness, so good. This stuff is so good. Simplifying elements. Look at this. Right? He's talking about how to simplify things. What do shapes look like? How to use shapes. So, so good. This stuff is so good. So this is Noble approach. There's also like a ton of other books by other artists like Mary Blair, Irvin Dale, etc., etc. But this kind of gets back to what I said about how storyboard is. You need to know like chunks of everything. You need to know how to choose your shots. You need to know how to compose your shots. You need to know how to act. You need to know a story. You need to know all these things and then also be able to draw it. So you just gotta keep studying. You just have to study everything and everything. It's just so much, but it all kind of like comes together. And as you see the pieces, make sure you do the pieces individually or else you'll get overwhelmed. That's why it's like technical skill, it's like shot choice, it's like composition. All these things are separate, and then as you bring them together and they come together, you're like, oh man, it's like music and it's magic. And when you start to get it and it starts to come together, you're like, yeah. You're just like, oh, it makes sense, it's awesome. So you got just stick with it, it'll come, it'll feel good. Kevin says, super guilty of that, buying reference books and reading like 5 to 10 pages, and then 3 years later finally dusting it off to use reference and then realize I never read it. Hey, that's me, all right. I have a lot of those books. I'll probably go through like about half of them and like, oh man, it's tough. It's really tough. I just bought another book recently, the Splatoon book. Oh, it's so good. I've gone through the first 10 pages and I'm like, this is good. That's all I need. There's a lot of like artwork and stuff. I'm like, this is great. And then I don't think I'll ever look at it again. Unfortunately. No, I'll probably look at it some more just because there's a lot of design stuff in here that I thought was very cool. But yeah, I tend to do the same where I just look at a book for a little bit and then just put it away. But okay, composition, study your stuff, do your thumbnails. If you have any questions, just post them up in the chat. Let's go on ahead to, oh my goodness. Let's go on to Caleb stuff. So because it has, what's the number? Because it has copyright music, I probably don't want to play it with the music, but we'll watch together, right? They're eating. Looks down at the pizza box. Looks up. They look at each other. He's gonna grab it. He's gonna grab it. Oh, he already tried to grab it. She stopped him. Kicks it away. Throws him. Runs over. Grabs a slice. Oh, that's nice. I got the pizza. You don't. Kicks it. Ooh. Grabs it. No. Well, that's nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Oh. Walks away. Gets up. Oh. About to eat it. No. Punches her. Oh, grabs the slice. Oh, God. Whoa. Whoa. Nice. Oh, falls down, grabs it. Oh, runs right through the door. Oh my God. Whoa. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, wow. Whoa, yeah, I mean, oh. Oh, it's so good how it just like slides to a stop. Picks it up. Ew. Oh. And eats it. Oh shit. You guys weren't watching. Oh, it's so good. Oh man, hold on. Let's go back. Sorry about that. We'll watch together, guys. So he gets the pizza. You guys didn't like my stage play? We're gonna do this. We'll do a War of the Worlds type thing next time. Tries to grab the pizza. Kicks it away. Throws him over. Grabs it. Runs up. Guy, you can't have the pizza. You can't have. Oh, that's nice. That was a nice composition with the table. Hey, look at you doing composition things. It's like you knew ahead of time. Whoa, that's nice too. Pulls him on the table. Oh, man, you have some like secondary animation on this. It's pretty nice. taken away. Ha 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 ha. I'm about to eat it. No, I'll stop you. Punches to the face. Punch it, go straight through the door. I love that, just like. Oh, that was awesome. The slide. The slide is so perfect. The pizza slide. So good. Picks it up. Eats it. Ugh, gross. Laughs. The end. Okay, that was really good. I think there's a lot of good things going on here, right? Like, I think even this, just because we're talking about composition, I think there's like a nice composition going on here already. We have kind of like a nice picture-in-picture. I would suggest adding in some stuff over here or something, whatever's to fill in the space, but I don't think that's what we're... I don't think that's necessarily necessary. Shot choice-wise, I think it's good. I think there's a lot of good things going on with your shots. Like, you have a nice variety of like close-ups and like wides and like overlapping shots, and there's a lot. It's looking really good. Like, let's just go through it again. Okay, another thing that I like a lot is that the pizza box isn't in the same perspective as the table. A lot of times people will draw the box so it's like square to the table, so we would only be seeing this one side, but you draw it kind of like off kilter, and I like that. That is good because it makes it feel more natural. It also gives it a little bit more depth to the thing, because everything in the shot is very flat like this, right? Like, everything's very flat but the pizza box, so it stands out. It's also a good choice. I like that you kind of did it off kilter again. Just like give it a little bit more, like tilt it a little bit more so that it's getting a little close to a tangent down here, so you just want to tilt it just a little bit more. Also make this pizza, like, you kind of are doing the compositional thing that I was talking about already, right? Like, you're framing it in this area, which is really nice. I like that. Just move it down a little bit. Just move it down a little bit. Maybe give it a little bit of love-in because it's like close-up. Maybe give it a little bit more detail. Make it look pretty. Because it's a close-up shot, right? You probably could even like zoom in on it a little bit. Like, zoom in just a little bit, because right now there's a lot of empty space in all these areas. And really what you just want is... Let me just copy that. Oh wait, where's my chunky boy brush? Chunky boy. Okay. All right, so just tilt it a little bit more like that. You can keep the same design elements. I like that. All right, but just give the pizza a little bit more love-in. Give it... And like I said, you can probably zoom in a little bit on it. Oops. Can probably get a little bit tighter on it. Or you can just start tighter on it. You don't have to be so far. You can start tighter. Like, if you start a little bit tighter and you just have a smaller zoom in, it'll work just as fine. But yeah, just give it a little bit more loving. Give it a little bit more loving. Caleb said, Stelloni says, anyone know what program he's using? Caleb's using Storyboard Pro. I'm using Photoshop. We need a pose, I think, of him reaching for the pizza. Oh, snap. We need a pose of him reaching for the pizza. Because we don't actually see his hand and the pizza. We don't see him reaching for it. We just see him in this shot where his hand's already down. But we need another pose. Like, you can make it even a funny thing where if he's looking at her, you can just be like, boop, boop. Like, you can make a funny beat out of him, like, reaching for it. You can be like, really slowly. And then we need a shot of like her grabbing his hand too. So if he does like that, he's like, we need a shot of her also grabbing it and stopping it. And then this is fine. Like, I think this is a good shot. I like that a lot. There's a lot of layers to it. There's like a nice framing element going on, etc., etc. You might also want to tone her a little bit just because it's such an abstract shape. You might want to give her a little bit of tone so you can show a little bit more of that depth. It doesn't have to be intense, just like color, maybe like a gray color or something. That's cool. See, like, yeah, your choices of shots I think are good because we go from like close-ups and like medium shots to like wide shots to reestablish where we are. So that's good. Looks up, kicks it away, throws him over. Even this shot, like the pizza grabbing happens so quickly that normally I'd be like, well, we want to see the pizza grabbing, but since it happens in the next, where we show in the next shot like that, I'm like, cool. That was a cool shot. I like it. Great. Again, you might just want to give her a tone just to give her a little bit of, oh no, just to separate her out a little bit more. I think the shot is fine. It's just that because some of the shapes are a little bit abstract for her, like this feels like, because she has so much hair, we can't really see her body. And because Steven Universe has like a lot of tubey things like this, like it kind of gets a little bit hard to figure out what we're looking at. So in those situations, what I'll tend to do is I'll just go over them and just give them like a little bit, slightly, like a little bit of a tone. You don't have to make it match the lighting or anything. I just want to separate it out so we see that like depth, right? Like I might even give this, the banister, a tone too, but it'll be a different color. Right, just a slightly different one. Right, just so that we can see those layers. We want to see the depth. That's why I'll do it. Also, I think Steven Universe is a good choice because this is a good show to practice. I think choosing Steven Universe's characters is a good opportunity to practice drawing through characters. I've actually never drawn Steven Universe's characters, but I imagine that their construction is very similar to like normal humans, right? Just think of these tube arms as full shapes. You don't want them to get too pinched, right? Make sure you're still thinking about them as rounded off shapes, as like full volumetric things. Even him down here, if you're thinking about his arm as a tube, what does that look like? Like, where does it bend? His hand is like this. Right? What does that actually look like, tube-wise? Same thing with his neck. His neck kind of got disappeared here a little bit, so you might want to bring it up a little bit. Like, So just remember the volumes. Remember your volumes. But yeah. Yeah, it's looking good. That's pretty funny. Grabs it. That's cool. Oh, that's so cool. I like that. I like that a lot. This is also cool. I like that. I'm not sure if the room is supposed to be that big or if it's just like a cheat, but it works. That's cool. I like that. Yeah, with her, be careful with your shapes again. What's her name? Let me look her up, actually. It's like, it's not Amethyst. It's... Oh, it is Amethyst. Okay. Wait, do I have the Steven Universe book? Aha! I do have it. Okay. I got the Steven Universe book. Let's look to see if we know how to draw her. Nope. Ruby and Sapphire. Jasper, Peridot. Okay. Go. Yeah. Where's my mouse? There we go. So in the book, she talks about them being like 3D shapes, right? Like they're not 2D. You want to think of them as like boxes. Either boxes, cubes, or I mean cubes, spheres, or tubes, or whatever you need to, right? And so when you think about like Amethyst and what her shape looks like, if I can just find her in the damn book. She's not in here? She has to be in here, right? She's the main character. Why can't I find her then? Oh, there you go. Amethyst is more like two... It's kind of like a sphere on top of a sphere-ish. She's a little bit... I wouldn't say chunky, but she has some volume to her. So make sure when you draw her and think about her as a shape, to keep that in mind, right? Whenever trying to like break down characters or draw them in like weird poses, try to think of them as like full volumetric shapes. So let me see if I can find Amethyst online too. Amethyst. Steven. Character design. Okay. I want like a normal character design sheet. Well, that's what we're getting. Jeez, that doesn't help anyone. Yeah, just give me a normal. Well, we'll have to work off this tiny one then. Ay. Right, so she's kind of, I'd say she's like, as a character, she's like this on the top. Kind of like that, right? And then tubes for arms. And then another sphere for a head. So I imagine her shape to kind of be like a sphere for a head, tube arms, and then kind of like tires, like a tire shape here, and like a upside down teacup almost. Or like a teacup, right? So when I think about that shape in terms of her as a character, I'll try to look for her belt line like that, and then think about her like teacup shape type thing going on here. Like a sphere cut in half, right? And then up here, I'll think about the same thing, like, what does that look like? Just kind of like a double tube. And choose shapes that you are comfortable drawing. Think about shapes that you can figure out and draw in every direction, right? So maybe you don't want to use that teacup analogy. Maybe you want to use like a box or a tube or something, right? So even with the arms, think about them as tubes. Or think about however you want, but you want those overlaps for the arm. Think about how it connects to the wrist like this. So like that. Maybe more like that. All right. She does have a neck. Make sure you draw her neck in. I think this might be that. I'm having trouble with her head because I'm not exactly sure how that works. Maybe like that more. Right. Ugh, that's terrible. Let me try that again. Put down the grids. Let's see what this looks like now. I like finding the middle line of people. Sorry, I'm really concentrating. That's why I'm not talking. I'm like, oh, I gotta like make this look good. Something like that, right? Make sure you get those overlaps in with the arms, like this. Make sure you get the overlaps with the shapes. Just make sure it's volumetric. You just want to really go around those forms a little bit. because I think it's flattening out a little bit, and you want to make sure that you have those volumetric shapes. And for like circle eyes, when drawing them from like up or down, like she has very circular eyes, just keep in mind that it's still the same thing as like normal ovals, normal circles seen from a higher low perspective. Like if this is normal, then like looking up at it, it might flatten out more to an oval like this. And then down shots more like an oval like that. Right, up shot, neutral, down shot. So just make sure you draw your volumes. That'll help really sell a lot of your shots. Let's keep going. It's pretty funny. That's funny. This shot, yeah, I think that works. This is cool. This is really cool. The fight scene. You might want to switch this shot up, the running shot, where he goes from this to running. I don't know if you need this shot because it doesn't really sell anything. It might be just funnier if you just cut to the outside of him like busting out through the door. It'll save you from having to animate it too. This is fine. I would say like include like a pan with him, and then at the bottom like truck out. Just keep that energy moving. All this other stuff is good, I think. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Nice. Again, I think your shot selection is pretty good. I think you have some really nice compositions. I think you have some nice action going on, and it's a good story. So big thumbs up from me. Did you have any questions? Did anyone have any questions? I don't feel like I drew her right. I've never drawn Steven Universe characters before. Maybe I should try them. I feel like I would probably learn a lot from drawing them. I think her neck is too thin in this one. Anyways, Stellany says, I had a question earlier, but it was about art books. Do you study Sakuga? And if so, do you know any good art books for that type of animation? Yeah, I do study some Sakuga. Well, I don't know what's called Sakuga, but I study some animation books. Let me see this. The 19th, I think. Tip stream. Episode 31. Composition. I studied the Groundworks books by Gynax. I studied the Fooly Cooly one and the Gurren one. I also have it's all the Groundworks books, like the FLCL one and the let me just get them out. Oh yeah. So this is the one that I probably studied the most. is the one I probably studied the most, groundworks of FLCL, just for how to draw them and animate a little bit. And then the second most one is logging. This kind of has informed a lot of my style. I think it has some really nice curves and shape language, so I studied this one a lot. I've also learned, like, I talked about this before, about how you can learn about posing from pose to pose by studying their animation and seeing what reads and what doesn't read. Yeah, the slip cut, I've had this since 2008. I had this book, I bought this book when I was in college. Oh my god. I didn't, oh my god, I bought this book in 2008. This book is like ancient. Holy shit. But yeah, what I mean by the way I study them is, like, I'll look at the poses, I'll look at their keyframes and see how I'll compare it from like one panel to the next. So this one's like 1 and then 2, right? Or I can't see 1 point. I'll look at from 1 to the next and see the difference in how they drew. I'll see why they did it that way, how much of a difference between shot to shot, and think about what that looks like, right? Let me see if I can find a good example of that. So for fighting stuff like this, focus. Like, I'll look at A7 down at the bottom and then to A8 and see the difference in poses. And then I'll go back and watch the anime to see if it's fast, what it looks like. See just even the posing, like how much you can get away with the difference between pose to pose. And this is not necessary a lot of times because this is very detailed, and if you're storyboarding something like this, you don't have to do that. You shouldn't be including that many poses. I just do it to see like which poses are interesting, right? Like which ones I think look cool. Like with the Spiral King and Shimon, like this is a really cool fucking shot. Focus, focus. Come on, camera, work with me here. There you go. Like that just looks really cool, and there's a lot of detail in it and whatnot. You can see a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, I'm just doing it for more for the poses, and then for my own at the time for more how to draw certain things, like how to draw characters like in an upshot, how to draw characters in a close-up, what do mouths look like when someone's yelling, right? Like all these like very specific things I want to learn how to draw. So yeah, that's what I use those for. Caleb says, always a privilege to submit to the stream. Nope, thank you for submitting it. That was good stuff. I liked it a lot. I think it's good. I think it's coming along. Kevin says, with the slip covers. Yeah, I keep all my like really nice, all my important books in slip cover, especially if they come with one. It's definitely going to be in there. The dust in passing is no joke. Tell me about it. The dust is crazy. Oh my goodness. What else? Looks in good condition. Yeah. Caleb says, we'll have to head out, but this was an awesome stream. Definitely going to check out Klaus. Thank you again for being so generous. Yeah, anytime. Definitely check out Klaus. Watch it just for fun, and then if you feel inclined, go back and do studies. But it's a great movie. I think it's just a good movie. And see you 2K. Have a good night. I think it's past 10, so let's just wrap it up. If anyone has any more questions, I'll answer them. But let me read off the joke. Yeah. I don't know if we did this one, but because we're talking about movies, what movie is about a bouncing dog? What movie is about a bouncing dog? Lady and the Trampoline. Oh, that's good. That's really good. I wonder if, I haven't seen that on Disney Plus yet, but I wonder if that's good too. Oh, that's good. That's really good. If you guys have any questions, post them up in the chat. Post them up in the chat. I'll answer them. I'm going to put away my book shortly, but if not, we're done with the stream. If you have any questions, post them in the chat and answer. Like and subscribe if you haven't already liked and subscribed. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday. No stream this Friday because I have something going on, but next Tuesday I'll see you guys. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh, that goes. Hey. What's this one? Oh, so that goes here. All right. It doesn't look like anyone has any questions, so we're gonna peace out. Thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you guys on Tuesday. Have a good night.